used appreciative inquiry as a process? No? Okay. Great. It's nice to have no background about it because we are trying to slightly deviate from the original use of the term. So, helps to have no baggage there. Alright, appreciative inquiry as a concept largely belongs to management theory. It's something that we use in terms of developing organizational culture, in terms of developing communities, societies, very commonly used with NGOs as well. Okay. Or social leaders in the general sense of the term, which could mean politicians, it could mean community leaders, leaders of, not just leaders but the entire community. It could also be any kind of an organizational, corporate or otherwise. However, today we are looking at using this as a motivational tool for self. Okay? We're not talking of applying it to an organizational context, although once you understand the process, if you wish, you may go back to your organizations and also apply it. It's an open, and it's a very simple tool to use. And when we mean organizations, I also mean an organization like a family. It can also be applied to family as a system. Appreciative inquiry comes, if you have to look at the theoretical background, it largely comes from a social constructionist theory, which is, in very simple terms, it's about the fact that the assumption behind this is that there is always hope. No matter what the situation is in an individual's life or a community or an organization's life, there is always hope. It's only a matter of finding it. And this is a process of finding it in a systematic manner. So, of course, we're not running through the whole process. I will run you through the theoretical part of the process, which you will be able to go back and apply. As far as the application part of it goes, we'll do a small part of it as a part of this talk. Okay? Let's start with understanding the term by itself. What does the term appreciative mean to us? Admire, accept, to appreciate, yeah, to praise.
To understand the fineness part of it.
Yes, to understand the finer nuances of a certain thing. See goodness, yes. Okay. So we're looking at the term appreciate in the broader sense of the term. So one meaning of appreciate is praising, admiring, right? Another meaning is, as he says, understand even the finest nuances of a person or an organization. And thirdly, also the other meaning of appreciate as in to add value. For example, when we say our shares have appreciated over the last 3 years, right? We're talking about appreciate in terms of adding value also. So when we say appreciative inquiry, we're talking about all aspects of appreciation. And the second term is equally important. We're not talking of enquiry, but inquiry. Okay, it's an internal process. We are talking about going into self, and the self could mean an individual like us, or it could mean a community, an organization also. So it's about delving inward to find strength, to find appreciation, and therefore generate hope, and then figure out how do we merge the past with the future. The larger goal of appreciative inquiry is use the past as a tool for the future. Again, a little bit of theoretical background. If you look at various schools of psychology, some schools, for example, the Freudian school, Sigmund Freud, largely spoke about how our past has shaped us as a human being. Right? So he talks about how incidents in childhood, during birth, during the adolescent phase, creates a personality, creates an individual, and therefore our present life traumas or a personality is largely dependent on the baggage that we carry, physical or emotional baggage that we carry from the past. Appreciative inquiry comes from a very different point of view. It comes from a rather futuristic school of thought led by Erikson, And Ericksonian psychology is largely about the fact that what you can do about anything in life is in the future. You can't do anything about the past because that's beyond the control. In the present, all we can do is be aware. You can't do technically anything in the present, in the sense that the moment you start doing, that moment is gone. So the present is always moving. So all we can do is bring in awareness, be aware of what's happening. Any planning, any action that can be formulated is for the future, and therefore it's a future focused effort. But at the same time, it draws on the past. It doesn't look at past as a baggage, unlike other schools. It looks at past as an asset from which we can draw things that we want to draw, and the rest of it can be junked away, or in that sense accepted but not really bothered with. Okay. So AI is, if you look at the management theory part of it, it's a 5-step process. Started off with a 4-step process. The modern use, we have 5-step process. And even in the individual sense of the term, whether we want to use it for our own goal setting or motivational resource, or even as a tool for planning for the future, personally or professionally, we can use the same 5-step process. The first step in the process, let's appreciative. The first step in the process is to define. Okay. Now, what do we define? It's about defining our entry into the process. Now, once we start a process, it's necessary that we follow through all the 5 steps so as to be able to completely benefit from it. Of course, even if you stop at step 2, more often than not, a lot of individuals gain a lot of benefit even through that, but I would certainly recommend that you go through the whole process anyway. The first step is simply defining our entry into the process. Now, if we wish to use AI as a tool for motivation, let's say, enhancement, it's, mind you, it's not a self-development tool, it's a social change tool. It wasn't developed as something which is for self-help or self-improvement, because the basis of AI is that there is no problem. And therefore, it's not about improvement, it's not about development, it's about creating change in whatever way we like to. There is no idea of a problem. I mean, and therefore, a lot of us as practitioners say that AI is the opposite of problem solving. Because one basis for problem solving is that first we define something as a problem. Right? Whether it's a person or a situation or an organization, we say this is a problem, and the very label of a problem creates a sense of rejection. If I have to say that I have a problem, it's about saying there's something in me that's not nice, and therefore it's worthy of rejection, and that's not a great feeling to have. And therefore here we do not really talk of a problem. We simply look at how do we generate hope from any given situation. So when we say we define an entry into the process, it's largely about setting a personal objective. Not a goal, but an objective as to say, why am I entering this process? Why am I doing this? What is the change I wish to create? So if you wish to do it at an individual level, the change could mean, for example, let's say I've been making X amount of money in my career per year, and this year I want to leap and I want to go from X to, let's say, 2X. Right? So that could be the change I'm looking at. Now, I'm not saying X is the amount X, the original amount is bad and it's a problem and it's less. I'm just saying I'm making X, let's go to 2X or 3X. That's the change I wish to bring about through the process, and that's the reason I'm entering the process. Right? Or it could also mean change in terms of, let's say, I weigh certain amount of kilos, I want to go to X weight. Okay, or I have certain kind of relationships and I want to move to a different kind of a relationship. Whatever is the change that we wish to bring about in self, or define an objective very broadly. Okay? We're not really defining the path here. We're just saying, okay, X to 3X. And it's fine to be audacious here. It's about saying that, yeah, if I can imagine 3x, somewhere there is a pathway, it's about finding that pathway. Normally AI is, it can be used individually, in the sense you can sit by yourself and also do this process, but and you will discover why, but usually it works better as a group process. And when I say group, it could also mean a pair, it could be two people also. But it helps to have a sounding board, because we're talking about finding, as we will do now, what are called life-giving forces which exist within us. Now, for us to be able to do that, there needs to be a certain amount of objectivity which comes in with another person who's there. Usually with AI, we prefer that that person is a stranger or someone who you don't know too well, because that makes it all the more objective. If you're sitting with a spouse or with a friend, with a best friend, sometimes a person does come up with some preconceived notions about you, and that may inhibit the process unless the person is able to become very objective by himself or herself. So it helps to have a pair. We'll go through one step of this, and then you can carry it forward theoretically. Okay, as we define our entry, and you can make your own definitions internally. Okay? Think about what is the change you wish to bring about at this point in time. It could be absolutely any area: personal, professional, relationships, emotions, physical, anything. Okay? Any change that you wish to bring about in the foreseeable future. And what I want us to do is pair up, okay, and preferably pair up with people that you do not know too well around here. And we're going to share an incident, a situation, an experience from your past to the stranger, and you can choose to give as many details as you wish to give. You may or may not share names, and that's your choice completely. What we'll do is we pair up and we share with our partner what we went through in that situation. It's about sharing a story. So it's like saying, you know, when I was 16 years old, I was in college, fell in love with this person. Okay? It's about sharing a story, like how you would describe the story of a movie or a television serial or a book. Okay? So you share that story, and let's keep it to one incident at this point. Otherwise, usually the AI process is a very long process. Here I'm just letting you experience one part of it. So pick out one incident which you think was a major turning point for you in your life. Any kind of a situation, and it could be anywhere from childhood onwards to now. Any challenge, any one major turning point, and what happened to you at that point in time, physically, mentally, emotionally. What happened to you, and what was the outcome of that situation? What happened to you as an individual through that situation? Okay. Now that's what you will be doing, and your partner will listen. Okay. And when we say listening, the first step for listening is stop talking, right? So the partner only listens. And of course, we will swap roles later, but for the moment, one person shares, the partner listens. If as a partner you wish to ask questions, AI recommends only positive probing questions. Okay, positive probing in the sense of saying anything which is appreciative in nature. It's about, let's say if the person says that I fell off from a balcony 20 foot high and nothing much happened. It's not about saying, oh really, nothing happened, 20 feet, right? It's not about questioning the person. It's about saying, oh wow, that's great, I'm glad nothing happened to you. Right? It's about ensuring that even if you're probing, it's not in the gossiping sense of the term. It's not in a sense that makes another person uncomfortable. You may wish to ask questions if you want to, but if the other person doesn't wishes to answer, that's fine. Okay? So let's share one incident. While you share an incident, the partner only listens. If there are questions, you may ask. And at the end of it, as a partner, please note down what you thought were the life-giving forces for this person. Okay. For example, let's say if this person talks about a situation where let's say he had a 10th standard examination and had to, some challenge occurred, maybe trains didn't work, there was a strike or something, and he reached the exam hall half an hour late, still managed to somehow get in, started the exam, and at the end of it did manage to pass. Okay, if that was the incident, you can garner as many details as possible about what did the person go through emotionally in that whole process, and then you could draw out life-giving forces. So in this case, depending on how the person's narrated it to you, life-giving forces could mean, for example, presence of mind, the fact that I didn't get bogged down about reaching half an hour late. In fact, I negotiated with the teachers and the supervisors and ensured that I'm let into the exam even if it's half an hour late. So it could, the qualities, the life-giving force that could come up could be determination, it could be presence of mind, it could be a sense of calmness or confidence about the fact that I can still face it even if I'm late. Okay? So draw up about 2 to 3 what you would call life-giving forces, and you note it down for the partner. Got it? So let's pair up, choose people that you don't know too much or don't know at all, and narrate one short incident. Let's try and finish the process in about 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. So you narrate it to the partner. Partner listens and simply notes down the life-giving forces. After that, the partner talks. You listen. You do the same for the partner. All right. Let's pair up. One group will have 3, that's fine, you can move in as 3. Okay, and please choose one short incident. Yes, sir. Why don't you join? They'll tell you. We've started the process. You can join.
So they will communicate with each other. Then they can easily miss this his duty to do the is taking the bus. Just I am holding him, telling him, you are a driver. Your duty is to signal or something. The awareness of you having this. How do you do it? I ask him, do you do the part? I belong. Petition is the part. I am the part. That I was not, he was also there. He was saying, okay, you are right. See, I was not aware enough. I am telling you, you just leave out. Otherwise, anything will happen. So this way, I can solve the problem. Then also, and I was not then after what I have to do. So you you are police people are not that much conscious because they are taking lives. That signal is what you know that police casualty actually it is not that massive is not for the shared action. In that policemen are wrong way and the police people are taking right from it. That guy wouldn't fault. But police people so in that no serious they getting money and all of things. So the people are suffering not them. So these type of things you understand why I want to say right?
As a person speaks, please, the partners, please make a mental note of the strengths, the qualities that the person displays.
So that accident become very rudely behaving. After that, what is the first you are in a fault. This place is not for the world. And then also you make a request. Because everybody not see this conscious someone on the point and police people are not they show the CCTV by the use of this where the both see the signal instead of something that place you have to be insulted. There is we must come around it places and anytime anything will happen 24 hours you have to be police people are taking when you sort of that's why you why allow them don't allow the people to do any see you stand for certain otherwise see this happens every day no use of your that CCTV then unless you are spending money on that burden on the government like you have
Everyone's shared? Let's try and quicken it up. Have both of you shared? Both. Quick story. How about you? All three are done? Okay. If you're through, you may want to wrap it up with a round of appreciation for the other person. Tell the other person what is it that you admire about that person. No appreciation? You appreciate it also. Good. Okay. Let's wait for them to finish. They become? Yes, eventually.
Now he gives some materials take to the police and all that. You know, he was paying 50% share to the police. So he thought that he can accuse the police. What the police gives and he got a application.
Sometimes training problem also,
No, appreciate in a very genuine way. Unless it's sincere, no.
That is the only way one can. If the rulers are rulers, you can't go against the ruler.
That's true. No, it's not about appreciating for manipulating. Appreciating because you genuinely do.
These are real things like I give the name Sarkar, you might have heard it. So that recently Bandra.
Sarkar.
Sarkar. He was shot in Bandra by the police.
Yeah.
The police said that down was
Oh, that's sadly a common thing, no? Let's go. Any observations, comments? Nice to share. Okay. Did we feel our partners listened well? Okay. Now here, when you're doing this process, when you do it with your organizations or groups or families, wherever you choose to do this, or even otherwise with a partner for self, this process of sharing stories is pretty much about sharing an entire life story. Okay, so it will take a few hours. This is like a trailer. Okay, so in that case, you may, if you wish to, and if you're doing it in an organizational setting, yes, you may want to set up a time limit for that process. If it's a pair, then it's okay, but if in an organizational setting, you may ensure that you're giving it reasonable time, at least half an hour, 45 minutes per person. Right, and then the swap happens there. And ideally here, of course, some groups had 3 people. Please ensure that it's as far as possible a pair of 2. Yeah. So what happens in this process, and which is what I've noted here, is AI is a process of creating a culture, a new culture. And when we say culture is the environment, the social environment, right? It's about creating a culture through sharing stories, right? So what the person will do at that point, or what you will do at that point, is pretty much share as much as you would like to about your life. Of course, highlighting a few incidents, because then it becomes easier for the other person to bring out those qualities also. So you narrate your story, the partner will draw out 3, 4, 5, 6, as many as possible, what are called as life-giving forces under this term. It's about the qualities that help the person deal with that challenge, deal with that situation. Right?
Pardon my interruption, but what do you mean by life-drawing forces?
Life-giving forces, yes. And it's deliberately named so because those are the forces which created this particular life for you. The fact that you went through that situation and still you are in this moment alive and well is because something in you gave life at that point. And that could be optimism, it could be determination, it could be physical strength, anything.
Good values.
Yes, it could be values, beliefs, absolutely anything. But they're deliberately chosen as life-giving forces because those forces exist in you. If we simply label it as strength and weakness, the trouble with the word strength is people very often talk of the alternative of weakness. It's got an antonym. And here we do not really want to look at the antonymous part of it. And we wish to keep the process as hope-centric as positive, and therefore as positive as possible. Because let's face it, our unconscious doesn't take negative instructions. Right? Even if we give it a hint of it, it will very promptly latch on. So if I say, for example, don't think of a pink elephant, what's happening? Right? Most of us do visualize a pink elephant because that's how our brain is tuned in. So here we call it life-giving forces because you can't find an antonym. The brain stays focused on what it's supposed to do. Right? So this is the first step where no matter, and this is something that you can, if you have enough people to facilitate the process, you can do this in entire communities. If you want to work with an entire, let's say, a slum full of people, or you want to work with a big organization, you can still manage this process where you simply pair up people, ask for stories. Then we move on to the second step in the process, which is discovery. Okay. So what do we discover here? We discover the collective life-giving forces. So what happens in this process, and now on I'm simply explaining the process to you, we'll not do the whole thing here. What we do is then you start pairing up maximum 8 people. Okay, so you start pairing, there will be 2 pairs of 2. So you group up about 3 to 4 pairs max, so that there is a group of 6 to 8 people. Okay, and in that process what would happen is that now that you have narrated your story to the partner narrates the life-giving forces to the group and says that I listened to the story from this person, and the strengths, the life-giving forces that I found are confidence, determination, hard work, whatever is it that you found, right? And the group as a whole lists it. Now that it is said, the force belongs to the group. Right? You're bringing an individual quality into the group, you're bringing it into an organization, into a family. If it exists in in that environment, it is there for the others to use as well, right? So it's something that's a shared entity now. If necessary in that process, you may permit people to also share stories. So let's say if I wish to share the story of my partner, I can seek my partner's permission. If that person is comfortable with that story being shared in the group, that's fine. If not, it's okay. Simply narrate the life-giving forces that you have drawn for that person, and that goes around the group. Everyone shares the life-giving forces that they have drawn from their partner, from their partner's stories. Wherever they wish to share stories, it's a very powerful tool. So if people don't have inhibitions about it, you can also let people share that story. Now what happens through that process is you discover the collective strength that exists in those groups, the groups of 6 to 8. We say 6 to 8 because beyond that gets a little unmanageable, because there are too many people talking in there, right? So this is manageable in terms of time and in terms of the attention of the group also. So here you bring it together and the group lists the entire life-giving forces that are present in the group, which could be 20, 25, 30, depending on how much the partners have drawn from their stories, right? AI normally uses a lot of flip charts. Okay, so carry charts with you if you're facilitating a process. Carry charts with you, even if you're doing it for yourself with a partner. Have some charts where you actually note down those forces. Put it around you in whichever environment you're doing it. If you're conducting a session like this in a hall, it's a good idea to have those forces displayed, because those forces now belong to the group, right? And it's nice to have a visual reminder of what belongs here, what are the strengths that we have here collectively. And now that discovery process is done, the third and a very vital step in the process is dream. What do we dream of? Dream.
Meta future.
Meta future, or simply the future. Prospects, future, right? Because what we've culled out in the earlier process of discovery is all the strengths that have, all the forces that are present in the group, and the group could be 2 people or an entire organization. All the forces that are present. Now that those forces are present, what does the group intend to do with it? Right? So here you go back to your definitions, whatever objectives you had in mind as individuals, you can go back to that. Or if there was a collective definition as an organization, the organization wanted to move from this place to this place, you can use that. Normally it's recommended that the first step in the dreaming process is we use what's called the poetic principle, in the sense no verbalizing, no talking. The group simply walks around and you look at all the life-giving forces that are displayed around on the charts. Okay. Again, supply the groups, and this could be the same group, or you could mix around people. It could be the same group of 6 to 8 people, or you could randomly mix around also. It doesn't matter now, because the whole life-giving forces come out in the open. Right? So then again, make them work in groups. Give each group a chart and Having seen all the forces that are present in the group, let them draw a future. Okay, give them pencil, pen, sketch pens, paint, whatever is it that you have as drawing material. Very deliberately so, and there's silence in the room. Okay, when you do this, even if you're doing it with one partner, there's silence in the room in that moment, because we don't want any judgment coming up through words. If for example I say that, all right, I need to lose 10 kilos in 2 months, it's very possible that while the other person encourages me, he or she may also say, oh, that doesn't look very possible with your lifestyle, or it's not very healthy, or there are objections that naturally come up given that we are rationalists, right? So at this point, we do not want any hampering, any blocks in the process. So let the person draw. Each person, let the person draw it for the collective or for self. What is the changed person, the changed organization, the future that you dream of? Let the dream be drawn by the little groups. Okay. After which, if it's a group scenario, you would come up and present it. If it's individuals, you simply share it. What you share is, what does that picture mean to you? You may have drawn of it in your own ways. So share with the other person or with the entire group, what is it that you have dreamt of? Okay, is it possible to perhaps put a timeline to it if necessary? Right? So let the group share it. Please remember that as far as possible, the first step in the process, be silent and draw. That works far more powerfully than verbalizing. The verbalizing can come once the drawing is done, because once that vision is out, then it's far more doable than having objections right up front, right? So draw, paint the future, and then present. Yes, a date in terms of, let's say 3 months, 3 years. Put some kind of a target date to it. So this is the dreaming phase, which is a very critical phase in AI, because here there are no inhibitions. You simply draw on the collective strength of the group and say that now that these forces are present, what do I intend to create with it? I intend to create this thing that I have drawn. Okay? And no holds barred here. Draw whatever you think is possible, okay, silently. And then we move on to the fourth step, which is design. Okay. Now, what happens in this step, in the dreaming step, is that the group as a whole, as a collective, now group could be a pair, family, organization, as a whole has visualized a future. Right? You may wish to actually strengthen that visualization by some kind of a role play if you wish to. If you're doing it with a big group, it's nice to actually strengthen it, reinforce it by letting the group maybe perform that future as a skit, or maybe as a, let's say for example, if the group has said that we as an NGO are going to grow from being present only in Maharashtra to being present all over India. For example, if that's the visualization as an NGO as a group has drawn. What you may do is let the group have a role play where you say, all right, assume that you are now, and the language here is very important, AI speaks only in the present tense, right? So this is 2015 and you are now present all over India, across all states, and you're doing great work. Assume you are the CEO of this NGO now, and you're doing a television interview where the reporter wants to know how is it that you have achieved it. Right? Let the person don that role of the CEO, let the person visualize and be that person in 2015 as the CEO heading a national level NGO, and let the person give out the answers. Let the reporter ask questions about how did you get here, what were the challenges you faced, what has driven you here, what are the strengths you have, and let the person live that future, live that moment. So you may do it through any kind of a role-playing mechanism, do a drama, a skit, a role play, a dance, anything that would work for that particular group, right? And once that dream phase is really reinforced, then you get into the design. Okay, the dream ideas are now verbally presented, right, at the end of the dream phase. Now in the design phase, what you do is outline it verbally, in the sense have a mission and a vision statement about what does that drawing mean, what does that dream mean. A 1 line, 2 line, small vision statement. Okay, a mission statement saying now I exist because, or now we as an organization exist because we need to do XYZ things, right? Outline the pathway, break that down into goals. So if you're saying that I want to move from this place to this place, this is the vision statement. How do I get there? So if I have a 3-year timeline, let's say first quarter, what am I going to do? Second quarter, what? Third quarter, what? So you make it as specific as possible, so that at the end of the design phase, the person or the organization has a step-by-step process saying, to get to that future that we have already lived through dreaming, this is what will get us there. So now there is a roadmap which says that to get there, I've got to do XYZ things. This month I'm going to do this, this month I'm going to do this, and so on. Break it up as finely as possible here. Quarterly or weekly, or depending on the timeline, make it as specific as possible. If you have a goal which is, let's say, something that you want to achieve 3 months down the line, it's nice to have a weekly plan which says that, okay, week 1, this is what I'm going to accomplish. Week 2, this is what I'm going to accomplish, right? So here you draw a roadmap. Okay, set a timelines, define your vision statement and goals. Okay, and then there is a roadmap. Again, this is a fairly long process. If you're administering this for a group, please give the group a few hours to actually outline it day by day, week by week, month by month, whichever way it works for the group. If you're doing it individually, again, try and be as specific as possible, right? Technically, of course, the process ends here. The final step here would be what we would call destiny. Okay. Destiny in the sense you've envisioned that future, you've lived that future, now it's about getting it inward. It's called destiny, or sometimes it's also called the final achievement part of it.
Doesn't mean leaving it up on luck.
Doesn't mean?
Leaving it up on luck.
No. Here when we say destiny, it's about bringing in that destiny. You've already gone to the future. In the dream phase, you have gone into the future. Right? It's not about dream in the fuzzy sense of the term. We've gone down into specifics. In the design phase, we've actually listed down minute details about how we are going to get there. So here it's not really about leaving it to luck at all. In fact, it's as concrete as it can get. So this is about ensuring that this roadmap is followed. A tool that can help here is to have what one would call an accountability partner. Okay, this could be a person, or if it's an organization, it could be a team which is responsible as an accountability partner. What do we mean by this?
Progress is taken into account.
Yes. Someone who, let's say I say that, all right, my dream is lose 10 kilos 2 months. Okay, and through the design phase, I have mapped up details about saying, okay, week 1, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to eat, these many hours of exercise, right? All of that, I've outlined that in detail. An accountability partner is a person who has a copy of that roadmap, and a person that you choose very willingly to report into and say, okay, week 1, this was what was supposed to be done. I have done it or I have not done it, whichever way. And the accountability partner can ask you a question about why have you not done it. He can pull you up and say, not done, you have to compensate next week. It's not really a AI concept, but it helps to make that destiny phase far more effective, because it ensures that you're on track, because it's very easy to be off track when you're talking about such challenging issues. So it helps to be there on track, have somebody who's actually got that full roadmap and says you have to do this, no way you can't. So it helps to have some kind of a partner, especially if you're doing this individually. Do try to have one person as a partner and who ensures that the commitments are met. Right? So that's in general the AI process. We have really condensed it at the moment, but if you're doing it completely, even if you're doing it as an individual, please give yourself a day. Because when you're talking about sharing life stories and really drawing out a roadmap, it's not something that should be done in a hurry. So, and of course, if you're doing it for an entire group or an organization, ideally do it as a workshop, perhaps a couple of days where the people are focused into doing only this and not really getting distracted by work. Okay. So, to summarize, some basics to remember: one is AI permits only positive probing when stories are being shared. Okay, no criticism, no comments about how was that possible. You accept whatever the stories are, we accept. Okay, even if sometimes we happen to know otherwise, we still accept the story because the person is sharing it as a need, or that's his or her perspective. So we accept whatever comes up, no judgments there. Second thing is, remember, it's not a self-improvement tool, it's a change tool. Right? So we are not talking about existing weaknesses, we are not talking about existing challenges, we are simply focused on the future and saying this is where we need to get, now let's figure out how. We are not talking about what we don't have. Right? And to summarize it all, AI is known to be the language of hope. Okay, so all we are going to be talking about through that process is present tense and possibilities. We're not talking about what happened in the past and what went wrong. That's not really the point here. It's about saying that, all right, let's bring the future here. How do we do that? That's the end goal of AI. So that's from me. Questions?
In the first phase, you said you defined the word appreciative.
Yes.
You said